Geopolitical tensions are on the rise. Right now, today, we are seeing what's happening between China and the US and the calls for war. That would be World War III, and this would not end well. I'm going to show you the details you need to know. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Right now, today, we are seeing major escalations. You thought the tariff war and all of that, which we saw a few years ago, was over. It was behind us. But yet, internally, we are watching the geopolitical tensions rising to new heights. I'm going to bring you all those details today and show you why it's important to you. Let's begin. First things first, you are seeing that the leader of China basically said they are preparing for war. They talked about this at that special meeting that they had recently, and specifically in one instance telling his generals to dare to fight. The government announced a massive increase in their quote-unquote defense spending, and we could see that they want less dependence on foreign grain imports. That means they want to be able to feed themselves instead of relying on the United States to bring that food in. What in the world does that sound like? It sounds like they are preparing for war. At least that's what it sounds like. And of course, all of this makes me think about what has happened with Russia and Ukraine. China's watching. China's looking at this. Now, China, in some sense, has tried to make itself as a peacekeeper of sorts, saying that we're going to talk to Ukraine, we're going to talk to Russia, we're going to say, okay, Iran, let's be nice right here, Saudi, you be nice right there. And they are trying to show them, a different side of what we didn't have just a decade or two ago. And now today with Taiwan, I believe they're learning lessons from what has happened here, and are they able to actually completely overtake Taiwan, which they say they want that reunification to happen, but what would the response be? Is that actually going to end well? I'm not so sure. Let me show you more details here. US will forcefully protect personnel in Syria. I think that's very clear what that means. But we have seen all along, the United States, it's probably a decade ago now, time really flies, where initially it was US will not be involved in Syria. We're not going to touch it. We're not getting our hands on that. Then it was, okay, we're going to get involved, but no boots on the ground. Then it was, yes, we're going to put boots on the ground, but, we're just going to be kind of like advisory. Then it was, okay, we're just going to be involved, kind of. And then it was, okay, we're not going to be involved at all, except when it means killing a whole bunch of people and stealing the oil. Okay, we're just going to kill a bunch of people, steal the oil. Okay, great. And now today, they're going towards this. I would hope that calmer, cool and calm and collected behavior becomes the new norm instead of this escalation. But here we are. And unfortunately, that's the way it goes. And so wars going on everywhere, and we see the expansion of them, and I'm seeing two sides form. And that is basically from this area of the world out to the east. China seems to be the leader in that area right now, and they're making the deals. They're making economic deals, political deals, and it is very clear that the West doesn't like that. It's very clear. U.S. denies Chinese claim that it drove away an American destroyer. And so these tensions are heating up. Of course, what we've seen with the South China Sea, as well as what's going on with Taiwan, I'd be very concerned as well. This is just a map just showing you where China claims that they run the show on, and of course all these other countries are saying absolutely not. So this is something that's constantly a battle that could spark at any minute. Saudi Arabia takes a step to join China-led security bloc as ties with Beijing strengthen. So you could see what's happening here. The SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Exchange, is a political, security, and trade alliance that lists China, Russia, India, Pakistan, and 4 other central nations as members. So now Saudi Arabia wants to join that. What does that mean? I thought the United States and Saudi Arabia were best buddies. I thought everything was fine. What about the petrodollar, GPS? You are not mentioning the petrodollar. Well, it looks like we are going in a different direction, doesn't it? That's what it seems like anyway. Well, here we have it. I want to show you this as well. I thought it was important to highlight this because we're talking about war today. The leader of Ukraine, Zelensky, he said that corporations, American corporations, would find big business in rebuilding Ukraine. Everyone can become a big business by working with Ukraine in all sectors, from weapons and defense to construction, from communications to agriculture, from transport to IT, from banks to medicine. They estimate that it will be at least $400 billion, $400 billion to completely repair Ukraine. I don't, personally, how did they, quantify that? The war, as far as I'm aware, it's still going on. I don't really hear so much about it anymore, the news cycle, the way it works. But what I can see is a lot of what we saw before in the Middle East. And that is war makes profit during that war, but also the rebuilding. And if you remember, there was a family, I wonder if I could say it without triggering the algorithms, the Bin Laden family happened to get all of the contracts after the rebuilding of Iraq, I think it was, but also Afghanistan was they bombed the hell out of that too. Isn't that weird that the Bin Laden family got all the construction, considering? Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent, but I think it's important to show us where the money goes. Who does your tax money go to? It's always going to the contractors, to the big businesses, and the military-industrial complex. When there is fear and tensions and wars and all these different things that happen, bank failures, your tax dollars get thrown away. That's what occurs. And that upsets me to no. Anyway, Tech War proposed U.S. guardrails on new chip investment in China to block TSMC Samsung expansion plans on mainland. You see? So if Samsung wants to expand inside of China because they want to do some operations, now they've got these guardrails in place that say, no, you can't do that. And that's going to hurt these companies. Ultimately, it's not positive for those companies. But at the same time, it sends a very clear message that the United States, Netherlands, Japan, they're all on the same page. And they are saying we do not want this company to be able to deal with China at that level. They don't want any more expansion. They want China to basically be one step down from the rest. And that, I believe, is provocation. It's like poking, an animal in a cage. You're just poking the animal in a cage, hoping that latch doesn't open. And so we see that right now. And I understand what they're doing here, but it is concerning because there's so many different things happening. You're sanctioning that country. You're poking the stick over there. One by one, something has to erupt at some point. And it's dangerous. It's really dangerous. We need peace. We need prosperity. We don't need war. We don't need all these things because it doesn't benefit you and I. But of course, the military-industrial complex always wins. So what am I doing? China economic planning official sees risks to the global growth and inflation. Ex-World Bank economist says China's shielding from bank crisis. Panelists call for more cooperation on green technologies. Of course, they have to throw that in there. But anyway, you could see certainly they're going to have a problem because of inflation, and that's hitting everybody. I know myself recently received a price increase because of on one of the products I make, which is made of steel and aluminum. Because basically they said, hey, the workers need more, the production costs more, energy costs more, the inventory management costs more, like everything's costing more. So we need to, increase the price a little bit. And that's just the way it goes. Everywhere they're seeing that, everywhere. And so we have to face the music that we're going to be paying higher prices, but we're not necessarily getting paid for it, especially when you factor in inflation. We're not getting the benefits of all this inflation. And so we just get left with the short end of the stick. Isn't that the way it goes? Look, Alibaba to split into 6 groups and explore IPOs in a departure from Jack Ma era. So basically the way it seems was that Jack Ma booted out. You got a little too mouthy, perhaps. I didn't really think the comments were mouthy at all from what I read. But he basically said a few things. They told him, okay, now you got to go away, come back in a year. So he went off to Japan, he went off to Singapore, he went off to Hong Kong, all these different places, try to find himself and maybe some new wealth. I don't think they probably let him keep all of it. And now the company's splitting up. So watch what happens here. Of course, the stock went up drastically as a result of this. But watch out, okay? Because this could have an impact on any of the companies that you are potentially involved in the United States too. So if they start to regulate and they start to dominate, Congress, they may actually split up some of these companies, and it could be good, it could be bad. I would be very careful about that. In the relation to China specifically, we can see that China is clamping down, locking down on every sector. And that means, again, I think that they are preparing for more difficult times. You let me know what you think. I believe that this is a concern overall. Just look at it geopolitically. You let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.